Hey everyone, thank you for coming to the Frugal Finer Things Club live. Tonight I have Marissa from The Budgeting Wife.
Hey guys!
Is it bouncing back and forth between us or is it just you down in the corner?
I have no clue.
Corner. Okay, we'll give it a minute and see if it fixes itself because usually it's supposed to be like you when you talk and then
Yeah.
I don't know that it's doing that. Oh, there you are. Yeah, there you
And
are.
we're good?
I think we're good. Okay.
Awesome.
All right. So Marissa is here from The Budgeting Wife, and we're going to be talking about traveling on a budget and how to save money. And Marissa, tell us where you're going next week.
Yeah, I'm actually going to Disneyland next week. I am super excited about it. I've been to Disneyland like multiple times, but I haven't been during Christmas time. So Jacob and I are really excited to be going during Christmas. So we're looking forward to it.
That is so exciting. Oh, look, Kelly is here.
Kelly. Hey, Kelly.
Everyone loves Kelly.
Yes.
You're going to have the absolute best time. Well, I've never been to Disneyland ever, but when I went to Disney World and it was decorated for Christmas, it was just beautiful. It was so beautiful. In fact, they had like fake snow, which I'm sure doesn't impress you.
Yeah, we do get real snow up here.
You don't. And so it was a lot of fun. But tell me a little bit about how you budgeted for this trip because tonight we're talking all about traveling on a budget, but we'll take some other questions too.
So we basically used a sinking fund to save money for this trip. So the way that like sinking fund works, I know people ask me this all the time, but a sinking fund, you basically just add up the costs that you anticipate to spend, and you take that total, and then you divide it by how many months you have until that event occurs. So that's exactly, and then you save that amount every month. So that's exactly what we did for this trip. So in about March, we were looking at going to Disney for Christmas. And so I began to price it out and look and see how much we plan to spend on like hotel and airfare and food and kind of just like add up all the costs. And then I divided it by how many months we had left. So we've just been saving it little by little every month in our budget for vacation.
So how long have you been planning? When did the planning process start?
I think the planning process started in March when we decided that we were going to go, and that's when we booked our airfare and we also booked the hotel. But that was all that we spent at that point. And then we've just been planning little things along the way. But we haven't really like fully planned, I guess, like actually like our days in Disney or like our schedule for that kind of thing, because we'll just like take it as it goes. But for cost-wise, we've been incurring different costs all throughout the year since about March.
Now, oh, hey, Sandra from Scotland. I'm so glad to see you here. You have some tips when it comes to flying. Like, I've seen you show some good deals on Instagram.
Yeah, so we fly with Alaska Airlines. So I live in Portland, Oregon, and so everyone flies Alaska basically if you're staying on West Coast here. So Alaska Airlines had this great opportunity, which they've now have gotten rid of, but they had a great incentive where you book your flight, and if the price went down later, you could call and they would give you credit for that difference that you could use for a future flight. And unfortunately, they literally just stopped it like a month ago, and I'm so bummed about that. But in doing so, it therefore made it easy for us to book our flight in, April, March or April, knowing that like the price was going to go down later and we could adjust it then. To what I understand, Southwest Airlines still does that, and I think that they may be the only other airline that does offer that benefit. But I'm super bummed that Alaska Airlines got rid of that. But throughout the months that we had booked that our flight down to LA, we were checking it, and as it went down, we would rebook it. So that was helpful, but unfortunately, it's not a thing anymore, which is a huge bummer.
Now, is that the larger of your costs? Is it flying or is it tickets? What is the thing, the bigger ticket item, I guess?
The biggest thing that we're going to be spending money on is going to be hotel. So actually flying to LA isn't super expensive. We're getting tickets. I think it's about $200 each person round trip for going to LA. But hotel, we plan to spend around $600, and we're going to be there for 5 nights, I believe. So yeah, so that's going to be which we still thought was a pretty good deal-ish for going down to Disneyland. So
yeah, that's not bad. I mean, Disney,
yeah.
where you spend it is going to be expensive.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Mm-hmm.
going to pay for it one way, so it's good to determine where you put your money. And don't you think that part of the fun of going on a vacation is actually getting to plan it?
Yes, I love like planning a vacation. Like that is so fun. And I think like for us going to Disney, like we've been several times, so we kind of like know what we want to do. But when we've done other things too, like going to Disney World, like that's a whole other beast. Like there's so many things to do. And so it was so fun to like pick all your fast passes and like figure out like where you were gonna go. Like I love the the thrill of planning, and it just keeps you like excited for when you actually do go on vacation, which is a lot of fun.
Exactly. When I planned our trip to Disney in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess it was our second trip to Disney in 2016,
Mm-hmm.
I made sure to plan it during the off season.
Mm-hmm.
And that really helped our family save the most amount of money. And that meant that we got to stay there longer. But Disney World is it's intense and overwhelming.
Yeah. No, there is like so much to plan and see and do, and yeah.
Hey everyone, thank you everyone who is just now coming in and joining. Oh look, Brad is here.
Hey,
Baby's
Brad.
He's great. And I love how y'all are having conversations in the chat. Be sure to pop your questions there. Any questions that you have about traveling on a budget, traveling in general, budgets in general. We are here to help you, right, Marissa?
Yes, totally.
What have been some hard traveling on a budget lessons you've learned?
Hmm. Um, like sometimes it just like doesn't work out, and you just have to like suck it up. Of like when you think that something's going to cost a whole lot less, and then it doesn't, and something comes up, and you're like, well, there's not really much that I can do about it now because I'm here, and so I'm just going to have to do that. Of like, not anticipating that you're going to have to Uber as far as you did, or as many times as you had to, and so like those additional costs, even though they're small, it just kind of like I love being able to get in the nitty gritty of my budget and like master all of that like beforehand. And so when it's like, that was an unexpected cost, it's kind of like feels like a budget fail in that way. So I think that's a hard part.
I think we've all been there. That has all happened. It's especially difficult when you're out of town.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people when planning, always add 20%.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever it is you think you're going to pay, add 20%, and that way you have a little bit of a buffer and
Mm-hmm.
you don't feel guilty. Becky says unplanned baggage fees.
Mm.
Yep.
Yep, that has happened to me before. Actually, I have a good story about that. I was going to FinCon with my mom. Actually, she was my travel buddy, and we went to FinCon together. And we have like an Alaska Rewards like card and everything. And so we're supposed to get um, free a free check bag. That's part of the thing. But it ended up that my husband was the main person on that, and they would only allow the main person to get a free check bag. And so we sat there at the stand. They're like, "Oh no, ma'am, I'm sorry, you're not the main like person on the account. Like you're gonna have to pay the baggage fee." And I was like, "What? That's such a bummer." So anyway, I totally get that.
Somebody asks, what do you feel? How do you feel about international house swapping? Well, I've never traveled internationally, so I can't answer that. What about you, Marissa?
Um, as international as I've gone is driven across the border to Canada to go to Vancouver, and driven across the border to go to Ensenada, Mexico. And that's about as international as I have been. So I do not have any experience with that.
Don't know either. I've been to Mexico too, but I was a kid.
Yeah.
Brad, I have FinCon FOMO too. I've never been.
Well, you guys need to come next year.
Things didn't. I'm hoping to go. It's in September, right?
Yes, the first week of September.
But we have some stuff going on. We'll see. What unplanned things have we run into? Well, traveling with kids is always
Oh,
like, it's always a dicey situation.
oh, I could imagine.
So we've had unexpected expenses with like kids getting sick, and you have to end up going to urgent care or buying medication, which if you're in a tourist town, they're going to charge you so much more, which is why I did a video on Monday about travel tips and hacks. And I said, bring medications with you, because you do not want to be the person at 2 o'clock in the morning at the gas station paying $16 for a little bottle of children's Tylenol.
Yeah. Yes. That and like sunscreen when you go somewhere and they just like hike up the price of like a tiny bottle of sunscreen, you know, all that kind of stuff.
Been there. Oh, sorry. I'm like reading a conversation that they're like having a side conversation, and I'm like getting really into it. So other than flight and all of that, what little tricks and hacks do you have for saving money on vacations?
Yeah. So one of my favorite things that I do is using Ebates, and I know a lot of people use it, but I actually was able to book, like before I've been able to book like a hotel through Ebates. So just using Ebates website and then going and booking the hotel, and then you get all the cash back once you make your stay. And that is usually a larger purchase when you are, you know, booking a hotel. So you do get a nice percentage back. So always go and check Ebates before you make purchases for things, for travel and anything else. But that's one thing that we've done. Additionally, I have a Target debit card, and I love my Target debit card, getting 5%. I know. So what we ended up doing is we bought a couple of gift cards for Disney, and we bought them like earlier this summer, knowing that we were going on this trip, but we bought them earlier. And so we were able to save 5% on those gift cards. And so we're going to be taking those with us as spending money for our trip.
That's a really great idea. I've never thought about it.
Yeah.
That's if you used an Airbnb, or I have. I love Airbnb. What about you, Marissa?
I haven't done a ton of Airbnb. I have before with friends, but never have like stayed there with Jacob, just like the two of us or anything. But like when you're wanting like a big house kind of thing, like Airbnb is totally awesome for that.
That's what we did on our vacation last week. If
Mm-hmm.
I never talked about it on the live, we just got back from Smoky Mountain National Park. It was a fantastic trip. I highly recommend going. The park itself is free, but it is one of my very favorite places. It's where we vacationed as a kid. It's where I went on my honeymoon, and so it's always exciting to take my kids there. But we rented an Airbnb. It was this huge cabin, and it was only $75 a night.
Wow.
So my whole family got to spread out, had lots of room, and we got to sort of maintain a little bit more of a routine like we would at home.
Mm-hmm.
Had all of that space. So,
yeah. That's such a great deal. That's awesome.
No, I'm wondering if that's like the off-season price. Is another one of my tips. If you can travel in the off-season, do it.
Totally.
When we went to Disney the last time, it was the last full week of August,
Mm-hmm.
and it was hot. It was like the devil's butt crack hot. It was, and everything was like they had 30% off your hotel and a free meal plan and like all these extras. So we basically went for half the price. So if you can get there in an off season, homemade millennial, yes, this will be on my channel forever. So don't worry if you got to go, girl. You won't miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So do you have any more tips, or do you want to take some questions from Instagram?
Let me see.
You have notes.
I have a couple notes.
Okay, well,
but I think I kind of covered it. And again, like my favorite thing is like a budget gives you permission to spend. And so if you budget for it and you save for it, again, we've been planning for this trip since March, then it doesn't feel too bad when you're just saving little by little every month for something that you're going to do later. And so I love that budget gives you permission to spend. I also think that when you are budgeting for a trip, budget more money for what's going to be most important to you. And so for anyone going on a trip, that can always be something different. If you are more into food, if you really want the nice flight, if you want the nice hotel, if you want to go do more activities, whatever's going to be most important to you, put your budget that way, knowing that you're therefore going to have to sacrifice maybe a little bit on other things, but budget for what's most important to you.
That was actually a question that I got. Where are some areas where we splurge? And in my family, it's where we stay. Now I know we have an incredible Airbnb deal, but when it comes to booking hotels, we're not staying at 5-star places, but we do like the Drury Inn and Suites or the Hampton Suites. You know, something where again we have a little bit more room spread out. Hey, Jeannie.
Totally, I feel the same as well. I love staying at like a decently nicer place. Like a vacation wouldn't be as good to me if I was staying at the Motel 6. I would just rather not go on vacation if that were the case. But so yeah, for me, staying at a nicer hotel is something that I'm willing to spend a little bit more money on.
When we were first married and anytime we traveled, we would stay at like the cheapest place possible. But now that we're older,
Yeah.
I don't want to slum it. I want to stay somewhere a little bit nicer. And here's a tip for all you parents and Marissa, if you ever decide to have kids one day, the Drury Inn, they have indoor swimming pools. They have dinner and breakfast and 2 drinks included in your stay for every night.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you definitely get your money. And we paid $120 in Atlanta for the jewelry. Our kids were in like the main area, and then there was like another room with everybody's awesome price, awesome place. So not sponsored, but that's my tip.
That's awesome.
Kelly says, I love nicer hotels too, but such a bummer that they don't have free breakfast. Kelly, you are staying in the wrong place if they are not feeding us this. And I also traveled with my own coffee. And said no coffee. I travel with my own coffee and my own creamer, like a little old lady.
What's important to you?
Priorities.
Yeah.
I read that, you know, it was a really salacious headline that said millennials spend more on avocado toast than retirement. And what it meant was they spend more on anything than retirement. But I told my husband that I probably spend more on coffee grounds and creamer than you on retirement. Okay, let's take some questions from Instagram. What do you got, Marissa?
Okay, let me pull it up here.
He says, we just stayed at the Drury Inn and we came during the hors d'oeuvres, and I was like, ooh, fancy. Yes. Well, they're not just hors d'oeuvres. Ours have like salad and chili and pasta, and it was like, okay, kids, sit down. Here's where we're eating.
Yes. My actually side story with that, one time when I was a kid, my family, we went to Hawaii and we stayed at like the fancy, like we stayed at the Grand Wailea on Maui, which is like the fanciest resort. And we only stayed there because we had enough like hotel points to stay there for free. And so they did the whole like fancy hors d'oeuvres thing because we were in like this little secluded part. And my parents were like, this is your dinner. You will eat all the hors d'oeuvres. Like, this is what you're getting. So, but when they like make the spread so great, it's like, why not take advantage of it?
I know. My husband and I, this is what we actually did. We fed the kids like the hot dogs and the chicken fingers and what they had at Drury, and then we used that DoorDash. Is that what it's called? They had this promotion running where if it was your first time using DoorDash, the fee was only $1. And so we were like, Cheesecake Factory.
That's awesome. That's so good.
You're very low rent. Okay, so what questions do you have?
How do you plan your itinerary when you travel to a place where you don't know anyone?
Oh, that's a good question.
Yeah.
I go on Pinterest. That's what we did when we went to Yellowstone a couple years ago. I went on Pinterest. I looked at most beautiful places to see in Yellowstone, and I actually found a blog post about basically it was the same road trip we were taking. We flew into Salt Lake City. We went through, Utah and to Bear Lake and into Idaho and all of that. And this woman had done the same route, and it was beautiful and amazing. And stopped pretty much every place she said to stop. All of her recommendations were fantastic. So I just look on Pinterest like the basic mom that I am.
That's awesome. Yeah, for me, I like to find videos on YouTube. So if I'm going to someplace, like I'll look up videos there or like type in the place plus vlog or anything like that to kind of see like what are other people doing there? Like what are some things that I would enjoy from that? So
When you travel, do you like to go to the places where the locals go, or do you like to do the cheesy touristy stuff? What is your travel style?
I think that we kind of like more of like the local part of it. Like this summer we went to Hawaii, but we went to the island of Kauai, which is a lot more secluded. And so we did a lot of things. So yeah, it was just wasn't very busy. And we were able to go to some beaches that a lot of people aren't typically at. So I think that like, I don't know, you get to experience really cool things when you're not following just like the normal tourist path and get off the path a little bit.
And yeah, do what the locals do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, one of the questions I got was where do you find free things to do on your vacation? Are there any particular websites that you use? Here's a tip. If you're going somewhere, Google whatever it is plus Chamber of Commerce. Because
Mhm.
they often have some sort of calendar with festivals and events and things going on that they want to promote in the community. What about you?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think like doing the same.
Sorry. I'm like, your hair looks so good, and I'm like, mine's so flat. And
Yeah,
like
no.
a cat was
We'll
messing with
curl it today. I didn't do it.
it.
um, I think that something that I do to look for free things, it totally depends on where you're going. Like obviously for us going to Disneyland, like we're not looking for free things to do, but when we went to Hawaii, it was like looking for the best beaches to go to because you can go to a beach for free or like finding a hike or like a waterfall. So it definitely depends on where you're going, but yeah, totally just like Googling like free things to do in normally ends up with a lot of search results. So
That's awesome. Brad says, all this vacation talk is killing me.
I know, Brad. What
Don't,
was your take, Lydia, on vacationing while like getting out of debt and everything like that?
I will be honest with you and tell you that it was our vacations. Some of them got us into debt to begin with, because we were not smart with our money. Um, we I don't have a problem with vacationing when you're in debt. I know that Dave says you shouldn't. I didn't because I had a baby, and then when he
Mhm.
was 9 months old, I got pregnant again, and so there wasn't like a lot of time for us to go on vacation. My youngest wasn't even. Oh, he's not my youngest anymore. My middle son wasn't even a year old when he got out of debt.
Yeah,
So there was no vacationing. But I actually don't think it's a bad idea. I think that if your debt payoff is more than a couple years, giving yourself a halfway point goal of vacation is sometimes exactly what you need to stay motivated and keep going.
I totally agree with that. So our debt-free journey, we spent 2.5 years paying off debt. And within that time, we did still go on a couple trips, but we were able to do lesser things. So like we didn't go on a like trip to Europe or like, do big vacations, but my family was going to Disneyland, and so they covered a lot of the cost of it, and we just paid for our flights. And so we decided to do that while we were still in debt. So there were just a couple things like that, and I also think there are ways to like afford to like travel by doing smaller trips or doing something more local. But definitely, like if going on a trip, if going on vacation, like once in that whole debt-free journey is going to be motivating for you to do that, I have no problem with that either.
I feel like, well, I need a goal. I need something to work toward, and I need to know, like, okay, when do I get my next break?
Yeah.
And so I think for me, that would be a very motivating thing. But I don't think, of course, don't go overboard. Don't lose your time. Like, keep it small and keep it simple, but give yourself and your family, or even if it's just you, give yourself something to look forward to.
Totally.
That's a really great question. Do you have any others? Because the rest of mine are not related to travel.
I have things you're willing to splurge on for travel versus not. So we kind of talked about that about hotel. But is there anything else that you like to splurge on travel, or what is something that's like not important to you at all when it comes to traveling?
I am not. I don't like a lot of touristy stuff. Now, sometimes if there's something really great, I definitely, we'll take our kids to see it. Like we went to see one of those cheesy. It was a Dolly Parton Christmas celebration show, and it was a dinner theater show. It had acrobats. It was over the top, and my kids absolutely loved it.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
we're not tourist trap people. Like we don't want to go to all the places where all the people are. And I'm just, yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that I'm not willing to spend money on. Also, we don't buy souvenirs. We buy one Christmas ornament, and that's it.
Yep.
So that's
So good.
a waste of time, a waste of money. Your pictures are your souvenirs. That's how I look at it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Carrie says, frugal vacations during baby step 2 has given us a short year so we could stay motivated to push on. We paid for vacation in cash, of course. That is good for you, Terry. That's awesome. Make a very good point. And then Planner Queen asked, what are your travel budget categories and ballpark amounts for spending for a domestic trip? Well, I think it depends on where you're going.
Totally. Things that we include in our travel budget, we have airfare, if that's going to be a thing, lodging, additional travel, so things like Uber or taxi or something like that, food while we travel, and there's always going to be something miscellaneous, so we always keep a miscellaneous thing in there, as well as tipping, and so tipping for housekeeping and things like that, for sure.
Don't forget the tipping. When you're going on vacation, you are supporting the service industry. Tip those people well. Oh, you can tell a lot about a person.
Yeah.
By how they treat wait staff. And I'm sorry, I get angry about that.
No, totally. Yeah.
Those are some good categories, though, that I hadn't necessarily thought of all of them. It really, though, it depends on where you go and where you live in the United States, because Hawaii is domestic.
Yeah.
But where I live, all the way, in the southeast, that's going to cost way more probably than where Marissa lives. So honestly, I don't know ballpark amounts because it really depends on where you're going. I gotta fly anywhere basically. I want to go.
Yeah.
Nowhere. All right. Want to move on to some non-travel?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Oh, I'm going to ask you for your input on this one because she says just about to finish baby step 3. Congratulations.
That's awesome.
How do I find a good retirement account to start? The investing and retirement questions always make me nervous. We went with an ELP, an endorsed local provider through Dave Ramsey, and he was awesome. And he does our kids' college savings and all of that. So that would be where I would start. What about you, Marissa?
Yeah, and again, like I'm not like an investment professional or anything like that, but I think that you definitely need to find one because investing is serious business. And so just finding someone who is going to be able to teach you about investing and has your best interest at heart is really important. So definitely finding someone like that is great. So Jacob and I see a financial advisor who we know from our church, and he's great, always looking out for people. So we like doing business with him.
That's really great when you can find someone that you know and that you trust, that you feel comfortable doing business with.
Yeah.
There are a lot of retirement questions, which makes me wonder, like, y'all, how old do y'all think I am? Do I look like I'm getting close to retiring? Please don't answer that. Please don't answer that. How do you stay motivated after being debt-free?
Oh. I think that like keep doing the things that kept you motivated while you were paying off debt. Of like Jacob and I would always have like little goals that we were working towards. So keep putting those goals in your budget, and to kind of like what you were saying with like a vacation, of like having something to look forward to. Like keep giving yourself like little rewards along the way to look forward to accomplishing, you know, your next goal.
Goal setting is definitely not something that you can drop the ball on after you're out
Yeah.
of debt. I think it's actually a little bit harder to stay motivated, at least
Mhm.
because I don't have numbers that I see going down. For me, it's seeing like savings and retirement go up.
Yeah.
And then my husband and I had our big 2019 goals meeting this weekend,
Mhm.
where we talked about, the 4 things that we want to accomplish next year. And unfortunately, all 4 of those things are expensive. And so we're, making those budgets and setting up sinking funds and calling and getting estimates. And so for us, having that annual, okay, what do we want next year to look like meeting, help
Mhm.
us stay a little bit more motivated.
Totally. That's great.
I recommend that for every couple to have a goals meeting together, so that way you're not going crazy. Here's a Christmas budget question: what amount do you typically budget to spend on each person in your family at Christmas?
Can you say that again? I kind of broke up.
It says, what do you typically budget to spend on each person in your family at Christmas?
Ooh, getting real.
Getting real. Our total Christmas budget for everything we do is only $500. That I did say, oh, that includes our charitable giving, but it turns out it didn't, so I'm a liar. But we don't have a set amount for each person. We just have this lump sum, and
Yeah.
basically think about what would this person want, what would provide value in meeting to them,
Mhm.
then we budget from there.
Yeah. Our overall Christmas budget, I think is around $400. But I mean, we don't have kids either, but we are buying things for like our siblings and our sets of parents, and we have a couple like work white elephant gift exchanges and things like that. But yeah, no, we don't plan to spend, and I don't want to say like how much we're planning to spend on each like person, but it's not a whole lot, and you don't need to spend a ton of money on people. Um, yeah, I think that like to talking like with my family, like for my stage of life right now, I'm the oldest in my family, and so all of my siblings are like, we're all adults, but none of us have kids yet. And so it's this very interesting like dynamic of like, we're all adults. We don't have a bunch of like little kids to buy for. And it's kind of the point where it's like, well, if we want something, we just go get it for ourselves because we can. And, you know, if we want something that's $20 or, you know, whatever it may be. So we are trying to find things that are maybe more like experiences that we can do together, rather than just buying gifts for the sake of buying gifts.
That's awesome. I still give my sister gifts, and we have some extended family, but I will be honest with you, I've kind of reached the point where I'm just over adult gift
Mhm.
giving. Like, I don't really need anything.
I know.
I don't know. There just comes a point where it's very awkward.
Yeah.
Changing the subject, somebody asks, how do you go about your goal setting exercise? My husband and I do it this way. I pull out my phone and I look at the calendar and I say, okay, what are 4 things that you want to do next year? And
Mhm.
so usually we do like house and family, vacation and ministry. Um, and there were some areas where we didn't feel like we needed to change anything. So most of what we're going to be working on next year is actually home improvement stuff. So we just pick 4 different categories in our life. We usually pick one thing for that category, and then we just kind of figure out how we're going to work on that.
Mhm.
Not just say, okay, I want to put in new windows and let that be the end of it. You also have to talk about, okay, we need to call someone and get an estimate. We need to start a sinking fund. We need to set a budget. So there are lots of little steps that you have to take before you reach those goals.
Yeah,
Hope that answered it.
that's great.
My siblings and I have started going out bowling the day after Christmas instead of doing gifts. That's a really great idea.
Yeah, that's fun.
What kind of experiences do you do, Marissa, with your family?
So my sister-in-law and my sister and brother-in-law, I guess, they are coming from out of town this year for Christmas. And so we decided we're just gonna go out to like a decently nice meal in like downtown with them. And that's kind of what you do in like a foodie place like Portland. It's like we just, go out to eat and like have that shared experience. Yeah, so I think that's been huge for us. Also, a lot of my family is into like shows. Like we love going to see like the Nutcracker. That's like one of our favorite Christmas traditions. The ballet at the Oregon Ballet, and so just like things like that are like those great lasting memories that I love.
That is an awesome idea. Is your family close to where you live?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
sweet. I have
yeah. My parents and my in-laws. So
Oh, that's awesome. That's good. Try to
yeah,
try to stay to both.
I know. I know.
So Kelly from Free Doing a Budget says, I struggle with gift giving ideas
Mhm.
for my family. My aunt called me demanding a list. I told her nothing, but she did not accept that answer. Any suggestions on how to deal with this? Well, Kelly, if you can't think of anything you want, maybe tell her to make a donation to a really awesome charity in your name, or just tell her that you and Jamie could use a date night. That she
Mhm.
give y'all some gift cards somewhere. That would be great. And she still won't take no for an answer. Everyone can always use towels. That's my philosophy. Everyone can always use towels. Somebody suggested I find gift ideas for them like movies or books I want, something small. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Everyone can always use a movie or a book. Okay. Do you have any other questions you want to share?
Why don't you find one?
Okay. This really only applies to me, and I'm sorry, but it says thoughts on kids earning money for chores.
Oh.
We have some chores that you have to do, like cleaning up your room, um, cleaning the bathroom, things like that around the house. We do have some chores that we do pay for. We have chickens, and so my oldest son goes and gets all the eggs, makes sure they have enough food, and he gets paid for that. My middle child needs a little bit more motivation, so he gets paid for things like helping me unload the dishwasher and things like that. So there are some chores that you have to do because you're a member of our family, and there are some things on the chore chart that you do get paid for, but it's not a lot because you're 7 and 5. What are you going to do with all that money?
That's awesome. I know this is like super nerdy, but I'm like, we don't have kids yet, but I'm excited to have kids and like teach them about money. Like, I know that sounds like so weird, but I'm actually
That is
excited about it.
not weird. I think that's great. Good night, Brad. Brad was telling
Night,
me
Brad. It's late. I know. It's on the East Coast.
very late. But all of our like overseas friends get to join us.
Yeah.
We will blah blah blah. I cannot talk. So my husband's aunt has no children, and she's such a wonderful lady. We love her. While we were there for Thanksgiving, she had my kids clean out her car, and then she gave them change, like all the change in the car they got to keep, and she put it in sandwich bags. We took it to Coinstar, and it was $30 worth of change.
Oh my gosh.
So we split it up among the boys, and we said, okay, when we go out of town on our trip, if you see something you want, you have to pay for it with this money. They wouldn't spend it. They were like, no, we want to keep it. And so I thought, oh yes, they've inherited my husband's.
Yeah.
He's the saver, and I'm like, I would buy as much. Like, take me to the Dollar Tree. I'm buying.
That's so great.
Your kids will be savers. That's just. Oh, my mom gets me towels every year. It's actually great because we gradually get rid of the worn out ones. See, I told you. Towels for everyone.
That's good.
So a couple more questions, and then I guess we'll wrap up because it is getting late.
Okay.
Marissa, you have been such a wonderful guest.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been so much fun.
Of course. Okay, here's one. How do you stay motivated? Oh, sorry, I'm reading two questions at once. What are your best tips for building your emergency fund fast after you've had to use it?
After you've had what?
After you've had to use it. This she's depleting
Oh,
her emergency fund and she
yeah.
wants to give some tips for building it up fast. I'm so sorry that happened. I know what that feels like.
That's hard.
Um, re-budget.
Mm-hmm.
Figure out what caused the emergency if you can. Because sometimes emergencies could be prevented. So figure out, learn from any mistakes that you've had, forgive any parties involved, um, and set up a new budget. So you basically are going back to square one and budget like you did at the very beginning when you were first starting out, and then find some little ways to cut expenses as you can. And I realize that none of these are easy things,
Mm-hmm.
but I also like to look at it from the perspective of, oh my goodness, I'm so glad that you had that emergency fund to begin with, because going back into debt would suck.
Mm-hmm.
What
Mm-hmm.
about you, Marissa?
Yeah, I think going back to like that scorched earth budget of like while you were getting yourself out of debt, like going back to that of really limiting eating out for just a season. You just need to do it for a little bit until you have that emergency fund back in place. But figuring out how you can cut expenses and then how you can also increase income through side hustles that are going to be temporary to get that up as soon as possible.
Exactly. And I know that, like, that's something I say a lot. Find extra income, and that's not as easily, that's more easy said than done.
Yeah.
But there are a lot more options than you think that there are. I did a video a couple weeks ago on becoming a social media manager. It was the first VA job that I ever had. I got the first one that I applied for, and then I kept that client for like 3 years. So it's not a hard gig, and it's pretty
Mhm.
high paying. And if you know how to use Facebook and Instagram, you could probably get a job by the end of the week.
Mhm. That's great.
So, and you
My
did.
husband,
Go ahead.
my husband also started doing using an app called TaskRabbit,
Mhm.
and so he's like a handyman. He just like knows how to do a bunch of like random things. Like he hung my like pretty pictures and everything. But so therefore, like people will hire others to come and do like just that. And so like last month he made $200 by just doing like landscaping and going and hanging things for people and things like that. So
Don't
it's
you
pretty.
have a blog post about side hustles or was it one of your videos?
Yeah, I have kind of both. So I do have a blog post and I have a couple of videos on like five you can start, which I did like a long time ago. That was like one of my very first videos. So I'll warn you on that. But then I have done one more recently of online side hustles as well.
And is it thebudgetingwife.com?
Yes, my blog is thebudgetingwife.com.
I just put it in the notes because I just always go from the link in your bio. Well, Marissa and I are so close to getting swipe up, y'all. Both of us. We
So
are
close.
we are like
Maybe next week.
in it to win it. So if you're not
Oh,
her on Instagram, go do it because I want that swipe up too. I want it for you.
I know.
What
I know.
It says, what are some child-centered tips I can give to my spender child to encourage her to save without discouraging her own decision making or comparing her to her sister? Give her envelopes, just like you would with yourself. Give your kid her own envelopes. This is how much you save. This is how much you spend. This is how much you give. And that way you're kind of teaching her how those numbers work. My mother-in-law's here. Hey,
Oh.
you need to go to bed. You have to work tomorrow. But I actually think, Marissa, do you have anything else that you want to say or add?
um, yeah, it's been fun hanging out with you guys, and I think that like it all boils down to like just setting yourself up well with a budget and I mean going back to like vacations and things like that, like you can do what you want to do as long as you budget for it, and if you're still accomplishing your financial goals and covering your needs, like feel the freedom to enjoy those parts of life. Totally. So that's what we're looking forward to this next week of our upcoming trip. So just all because of the budget.
So excited for you. You're going to have so much fun. Budgets don't have to be a restrictive thing. Like you were saying earlier, you're giving yourself permission to spend. It's
Totally.
money. and you get to spend it the way you want to. And the best thing about being debt free is that your money is yours and you're not having to spend it on payments every single month.
Mhm.
You get to
Mhm.
do what you want to do with the money that you've worked so hard to earn, and you don't need to feel guilty about spending it. I know that after we got out of debt, anytime I spent money, I felt so guilty, and I just kind of had to make myself get over it.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's real. All right. Well, thank you, Marissa, for hanging out. I'm going to tell the rest of you guys good night, and I will see y'all soon. Don't forget, head over to Marissa's channel and subscribe. She is awesome. She's collabed with me before. I think she's great. And I hope you guys have a great night. Bye.